Have you ever planned the perfect party, only for someone to barge in and try to steal the spotlight? Well, that's exactly what happened at my housewarming. And let me tell you, things spiraled way out of control. What was supposed to be a warm celebration of new beginnings turned into a neighborhood showdown no one would ever forget. And it all started with Karen. I had just moved into a cozy, two-story house on a quiet cul-de-sac. The kind of place where families ride bikes, neighbors wave as they mow their lawns, and block parties are a thing. After months of saving and years of renting, this home was my dream come true. Naturally, I wanted to celebrate, so I invited all the neighbors for a simple housewarming party. Nothing extravagant, just good food, music, and laughter. The guest list included about 15 households, everyone from retirees to young couples. I even made little welcome baskets with homemade cookies and thank you cards. People were excited. It felt like the start of something great. But every neighborhood has that one person who thrives on drama, who always has to be in control. Ours was Karen, blonde bob haircut, oversized sunglasses even at dusk, and a permanent scowl that made her look like she'd bitten into a lemon. I hadn't invited her. Why? Because she'd already made it clear she didn't approve of me buying the house. From the moment I moved in, Karen acted like she owned the street. She reminded me about trash collection times, warned me about keeping my grass trimmed to regulation height, and even suggested I repaint my front door because, according to her, navy blue isn't very welcoming. I politely smiled through it all, but I knew she was trouble. So when she showed up at my housewarming uninvited, holding a bottle of wine and strutting through my doorway like she belonged there, I felt my stomach sink. The party was in full swing. People were laughing, the grill was sizzling, and the music was just right. Not too loud, not too soft. Then Karen entered, and suddenly it was like the room shifted. Conversations quieted, eyes darted toward her, and I could practically hear the collective thought, "Oh no, she's here." She didn't just greet people, she commanded attention, taking over conversations, loudly criticizing my choice of decorations, and even rearranging the snack table because she thought it looked tacky. At first, I tried to ignore it, hoping she'd mellow out, but then she did something I couldn't brush off, something that would ignite the storm. Karen tried to take over my party. And not in a subtle way either. She actually stood up, clinked her wine glass with a spoon, and announced, "Everyone, I think we should do this properly. Let me run things. I know how to throw a party." The room froze. My heart pounded. This was my house, my party, my new beginning, and Karen was trying to hijack it. But she had no idea what was coming next. The room went silent after Karen's bold announcement. Guests exchanged uneasy glances, some chuckling nervously as if she had made a joke. But Karen wasn't joking. She stood there, chin tilted high, gripping her wine glass like she was about to host a wedding toast. "Now," she continued, waving her hand around my living room, "we'll need more seating over there. And honestly, the playlist, way too outdated. Who even listens to soft jazz at a party?" She rolled her eyes dramatically, as if she were doing everyone a favor by pointing it out. I opened my mouth to respond, but she was faster. "Don't worry, everyone. I've got this covered. You'll thank me later." The audacity was unbelievable. Here I was, standing in my own home, and she was acting like I was the guest. My neighbors shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure how to react. Some of them avoided eye contact altogether, while others gave me sympathetic looks that screamed, "I'm so sorry you have to deal with this." Still, a few people seemed curious to see where this was going. After all, drama has a way of grabbing attention. I finally stepped forward, forcing a polite smile. "Karen, thank you for the suggestions, but I've got everything under control. It's my party, after all." Her smile faltered for just a second, but then she leaned in close, lowering her voice so only I could hear. "Sweetheart, if you want people to like you here, you need me. I know everyone. I know what they expect. Trust me, you'll ruin this if you don't let me handle it." I clenched my jaw. The nerve of her. But before I could respond, she turned back to the crowd, clapping her hands. "All right, everyone. Time for a little neighborhood icebreaker. Line up." Several people hesitated. Others exchanged confused glances. Karen was steamrolling my entire evening. I tried to cut in. "Actually, we had a plan for games later." Karen cut me off. "Oh, please. No one wants to sit around waiting. Let's do this now." At that moment, something shifted. A couple across the room, Mark and Julia, newlyweds who had just moved in last year, spoke up. "Actually," Julia said firmly, "I think we were enjoying things just fine the way they were." A ripple of agreement passed through the room. Karen's face tightened, her grip on the wine glass whitening. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not in front of an audience. But instead of backing down, she doubled down. "I'm just trying to help. You'll all thank me when this doesn't feel like some awkward school function." My blood boiled, but I stayed calm. This was my night, and I wasn't going to let her ruin it. What I didn't know was that my neighbors were about to step in, and Karen was about to face resistance she never expected. Karen stood in the middle of my living room like a queen without a crown, determined to seize control. Her voice was loud, sharp, and dripping with false authority, but the neighbors weren't buying it anymore. Julia's remark had already cut through the tension, and now Mark joined in. Yeah, I think the party's going fine. We don't need a host switch halfway through. Several people nodded, murmuring in agreement. I caught sight of Mrs. Henderson, a sweet retiree from across the street, whispering to her friend. She's always like this, always bossing people around. Karen's eyes narrowed. She clearly hadn't expected the group to side against her. Still, she pressed on, forcing a laugh. Oh, come on, don't be so uptight. I just thought I'd bring some fun into this gathering. Trust me, I know how these things should be done. That's when Mr. Patel, a quiet man who rarely spoke but commanded respect, finally chimed in. He adjusted his glasses, then said calmly, Karen, with all due respect, this is not your house. You weren't even invited. Maybe you should let the host decide what's best. The air grew thick. You could almost feel the room tilt against her. Karen flushed red, her composure cracking. She spun toward me, pointing an accusing finger. You see, this is what happens when you move into a neighborhood without understanding how things work. You should be grateful I'm even here, showing you the ropes. That was the breaking point for me. I set my drink down and faced her head on. My voice was calm but firm. Karen, I didn't ask for your help. I didn't invite you. And I certainly don't need you running my party. This is my home. And tonight is supposed to be about celebrating, not about you taking over. A few people clapped softly, others nodded in support. The tide had officially turned, but Karen wasn't finished. Her lips curled into a smug grin. Oh, so now you think you've got everyone on your side? Just wait. You'll see how long that lasts. Neighbors can turn on you in an instant. She thought she was intimidating me, but in reality, she had just sealed her own fate. Because one by one, the neighbors started speaking up. Honestly, Karen, you've been like this at every block party, someone muttered. You criticized my Christmas lights last year, another added. And you tried to cancel the summer barbecue because you said it was too noisy, Mrs. Henderson said loudly, earning a round of chuckles. Karen's face twisted. She realized too late that the people she assumed would back her up had finally had enough. The neighbors weren't just defending me, they were uniting against her. The atmosphere had shifted completely. Moments earlier, Karen had strutted in like she owned the place. Now, she was standing in the center of my living room, outnumbered and exposed. The neighbors she thought she could manipulate were finally standing up to her, and she didn't know how to handle it. Wow, Karen scoffed, her tone dripping with sarcasm. So this is how it's going to be? Gang up on me? Real classy. No one's ganging up on you, Julia shot back. We're just tired of you acting like you're the boss of everything. Laughter and murmurs of agreement filled the room. Even the people who had been quiet before were now emboldened to speak up. It was as if Karen's failed attempt to hijack my party had given everyone permission to finally say what they'd been holding in. Mr. Patel adjusted his glasses again, his voice steady and calm. Karen, respect is earned, not demanded. Maybe if you listened more and ordered less, people wouldn't feel the way they do. Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her face burned crimson, and she clutched her wine glass like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I decided to take a different approach. Instead of anger, I went with grace. Karen, look, tonight isn't about you or me competing. It's about celebrating a new beginning and connecting with the neighborhood. If you want to stay and enjoy the party, you're welcome to, but only as a guest, not as the host. A hush fell over the room. Everyone waited for her response. For a split second, it seemed like she might back down. But then Karen let out a bitter laugh, tossing her head back dramatically. You think you can embarrass me like this? Fine, enjoy your little get-together. Let's see how long you last in this neighborhood without my support. She set her wine glass down with a loud clink, grabbed her oversized purse, and stormed toward the door. As it slammed shut behind her, a wave of relief swept through the house. Conversations restarted, laughter returned, and the music once again filled the air. It was like a storm had passed, leaving behind a clearer sky. Julia raised her glass. To new neighbors who aren't afraid to stand up for themselves. To finally putting Karen in her place, someone else added, sparking laughter. I couldn't help but smile. What began as a nightmare was quickly transforming into the very thing I'd hoped for, a night of connection and community. But little did I know, Karen wasn't finished. She had left my house, yes, but she was already plotting her next move. And when she returned, things would escalate far beyond one ruined party. The party carried on long after Karen stormed out. Neighbors mingled, laughter filled the rooms, and I felt a growing sense of belonging. For the first time, I truly felt like this house wasn't just a building, it was a home. But peace never lasts long when Karen is involved. Just as we were winding down, headlights swept across the windows. A car door slammed. Then, the unmistakable click of high heels echoed up the walkway. I exchanged uneasy glances with Julia and Mark. Karen was back. The front door burst open before I could even react. Karen stomped inside, carrying a clipboard of all things. "Listen up, everyone!" she barked, her voice echoing over the chatter. As acting head of the neighborhood committee, I am officially shutting down this party. Noise complaints, overcrowding, fire hazards, take your pick. Gasps filled the room. A few guests froze, unsure whether to laugh or take her seriously. But then Mr. Patel calmly stepped forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Karen, there is no official committee, and you have no authority here. This is harassment." The room buzzed with agreement. Someone even muttered, "She's lost it." Karen's face twisted in frustration. "You're all just jealous because I actually care about the neighborhood. If you keep siding against me, don't expect my help when things go wrong." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just trying to ruin my night. She was trying to control everyone. And the neighbors saw it too. Julia stood tall, her voice steady. "Karen, enough. You've made every block party miserable. You've bullied people about their lawns and decorations. And now you're trying to destroy a simple housewarming. We're done." Applause erupted. Mrs. Henderson even shouted, "Hear, hear!" Karen's eyes darted around the room, searching for support. But all she saw were crossed arms and disapproving stares. The power she thought she had was gone. I stepped forward, taking a deep breath. "Karen, you can either stay and be respectful, or you can leave. But this is my home, and you will not dictate what happens here." For a long, tense moment, she stood frozen, her clipboard clutched tightly to her chest. Then, with a huff, she turned on her heel and stormed out for the second and final time. The door slammed. Silence followed. Then, slowly, the room erupted in cheers. Neighbors clapped me on the back, raised glasses in a toast, and reassured me that I had their full support. That night, Karen lost whatever grip she thought she had on the cul-de-sac, and I gained something priceless: trust, respect, and real friendships. What started as a disaster ended as a victory. Karen tried to take over my housewarming party, but the neighbors turned on her, and I'll never forget it.